Greetings, the Hijabi Gamer here, and I know I'm a little late making this video, but I figured I should give my own unique perspective on the whole rainbow butt monkey story because I haven't seen any library staff talking about it, and I actually used to work in a public library. Now, I don't work in one now, I work in retail, but I did work in a public library. Primarily, I worked in the children's department, but I did work some shifts in the reference department as well as at what's called the circulation desk. So we're used to borrow books, that desk. I was technically not a librarian. I did the work of a librarian, but in order to be a librarian, you need a master's degree. In order to get the pay of a librarian, you need a master's degree. But you don't have to really be a librarian to do the work of a librarian. I did cataloging, so I don't know if anybody remembers the numbers on the spines of books, nonfiction books. Cats are 636.8, by the way. I used to go through a whole system to catalog books, enter them into the database. I also used to sit at the reference desks, adults and children. You know, people come up to me asking me questions, which is why, yeah. So I worked in a library for a while, and I did a lot of programming too. I did story time, I did book discussion groups with primarily young teens. I'm the one who did our Harry Potter program. So one year we had a Harry Potter trivia program, and I created the whole thing from scratch. I came up with the trivia questions myself. I got my hands on a sorting hat. So all the kids were all sorted into different Harry Potter hats. We randomly picked them as one of the 4 houses. Yeah, it was really, I spent a lot of money on this program, went above and beyond for this Harry Potter program. So I worked in the children's department. So for me, watching this whole escapade carry out has me utterly baffled and horrified because while I haven't worked in a library in a couple of years, I can tell you this would never have happened in the public library. Now, maybe I don't know much about libraries in England. I have never been I've never been inside a library in England. I have been to England a few times on my way to Egypt. So maybe I don't know what the atmosphere of a library is like in England. However, I could tell you in New Jersey, this would never have made it past the planning stage. Now, I remember I never picked what kind of programs we were having. So if we were going to have a big event like a summer reading program, the children's librarian, and we had 2 librarians, would go through, we'd go either through the internet or a lot of people would drop off pamphlets and brochures about shows they did. We'd go through them and see what they offered, and we would pick a theme every year for summer reading, and we would try to get something that is related to the summer reading club theme. So if we had, say, circus animals, we would try to get something circus related, or space, we'd try to get something space related for the initial kickoff party for the summer reading program. But my first question is, did this group they hire tell the truth on their marketing material? I mean, did they admit that they have a rainbow butt monkey that is exaggeratedly anatomically correct in their marketing material? Because if they did, what were the librarians thinking? It wouldn't, in the library I worked at, and we knew that this type of group presented them in this kind of way, we would never have hired them. We would have been like, hey, this is insane. There's no way we're putting this in a library. Okay, look, in a library, period. Not even just in the children's department. That kind of attire is not appropriate for the library. That person, even if they weren't part of a program, if somebody walked into the library like that, would have been made to leave. Now, okay, fine, he's part of, I mean, it would never have, what did their marketing material say? Because if it was truthful, then what were the librarians thinking accepting this? Saying, hey, yeah, oh, they have really, anatomically correct rainbow butt monkey for a 4 to 11-year-olds. Sure, why not? What were the librarians thinking? Now, if their marketing material was false, well, first of all, what was that guy who dressed up like the rainbow butt monkey thinking? I mean, come on, the moment you went into a library, your first thought have been, okay, maybe I should remove certain pieces from my costume because it's not appropriate for the setting. I mean, they must have known they were going to a library beforehand. You know, we would tell them this is what kind of program we're doing. You know, you'd contact them. Be like, hey, we're going to have a summer reading party kickoff. It's going to have 50 kids. You know, what are you going to do? You know, because we'd want to put it on our marketing material that we're, you know, reaching out to the public with. Hey, so we're going to have, I don't know, we once had a double jump, the jump roping thing. We had one of those, so we said, we're going to have so-and-so starring in the following, and they're going to be doing this. So we'd give an idea of what to expect. So undoubtedly, these people must have known they were going into a library, and they were doing a program for children. So what were they thinking, even if they weren't honest in their marketing material? The moment they knew they were going into a library, they should have been like, okay, well, maybe this isn't appropriate for a library. But fine, okay, maybe the people doing this group are mentally challenged and don't realize that dressing like that is not appropriate for a public library, okay? Maybe there's something wrong with Mr. Rainbow Butt Monkey Dude, and he doesn't realize this is not appropriate behavior for the public in general, let alone the children's department. I mean, the guy was dancing in public in the street, and he didn't realize that that is totally inappropriate. I'm amazed police officers didn't come up and be like, hey, dude, that's not appropriate. We're going to arrest you for, like, exhibitionism. But it's not appropriate for the public. But when you find out, oh, you're going to be in a public library with children, when he was putting on his costume, why didn't he remove pieces from it to be more appropriate? Because Rainbow Monkey, good. Rainbow Butt Monkey with details, definitely not good. Okay, fine. So let's say the guy just totally socially inept and does not understand this is not appropriate, somehow has grown into adulthood and does not realize that this is not appropriate attire for the public. The librarians, the moment they saw this guy walk out dressed like that, should have been like, okay, yeah, that's it, get out of here. I know for a fact that the library I worked at would have taken one look at this guy and said, this isn't what we paid for, no. Or at the very least, we'd be like, you need to remove certain parts of your costume if you want to do story time. I mean, the fact that this guy thinks he can do some kind of children's programming dressed like that, and then the librarian saw it and said, that's perfectly appropriate, go right ahead. I mean, my library never reached that level, because we would have immediately seen the marketing material and said, yeah, we don't want this in front of our kids. This whole thing, there were so many checks and balances. There were so many opportunities from my experience working in a library where this could have been caught and told and realized that it's not right. Starting with the librarians hiring the group, looking at their marketing material. Okay, the marketing material lied. The people who run the group should have been like, oh, we're working for a library, for children. This isn't appropriate. Oh, maybe they were stupid and didn't realize this isn't appropriate. The moment they walked into the library and came out in their costumes, the librarian should have been like, oh, dear God, you're dressed like that in front of children? No, change. They didn't catch it there. Like I said, I've worked in a library. I did children's programming. I mean, how it made it this far is amazing. We never came even close to something being this inappropriate. Because, librarians are supposed to know better. Like I said, I wasn't even a full-blown librarian. I was a library assistant. And I did programming. I did story time for 3-year-olds. Let's just say that didn't work out very good. But I did do story time for 3-year-olds. I wasn't very commanding of the kids. Let's just say when I first started, the kids were able to easily overcome me and started a food fight with the fake fruit. Yeah. But I did do teen programs where we did book discussions. I'm the one who created our entire video game collection. I'm the one who started it. So when we decided to lend out video games, I'm the one who initiated it, chose the first video games titles for our collection. You, even without even being told, you know certain things are not appropriate. You have a program for 4 to 11-year-olds. How this made it past the planning stage is mind-boggling, but fine. Like I said, maybe the marketing material lied or wasn't accurate. The group should have known better. Fine, they're dumb, they don't know any better. The librarian, the moment she saw this, should have been like, I mean, this woman, I'm sorry. Normally, I don't like to call for people being fired. I get it. I mean, I've made it pretty clear. I'm very, very touchy when it comes to people's employment. But this librarian, this children's librarian, that decision should get her fired. Because she clearly does not know what it means to be... I mean, what other decisions has this children's librarian made that are this inappropriate? After seeing that, I'm amazed the parents will ever bring their children back to that library. I wouldn't. I would be like, what other decisions, what does this children's librarian make? Because clearly she does not know, or he, I don't know, I think it's a she, does not know what is appropriate for children. She does not deserve the position of children's librarian. It is a huge responsibility. One of the things that we used to talk about at the library is that people often forget that the library is a public space. We used to have at several points theft problems because people would just leave their stuff lying around. Wallets were being taken out of women's purses. So people often forget that the public library is a public place because they treat it like their living room. So being a children's librarian is a huge responsibility. And you allow that? You saw that in your children's library. And you said, I don't have a problem with that. You do not deserve the responsibility of being a children's librarian. Flat out, this woman should be fired and should never work in a children's library ever again. Period. I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm very sensitive about people's work. But when you talk about children and children's libraries, and once you lose someone's trust, it's very hard to regain it. And this woman should not be trusted to be around children because she allowed that. Anyway, these are the thoughts of an actual library employee, former library employee. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the tower.